So you might have thought that you had too many blowhards in the 2020 presidential race already. I mean, you have Cory Booker, Mr. Spartacus, and of course there's Beto and Bernie Sanders. But this one might take the cake. He might actually make Beto O'Rourke look comparatively dignified. A guy who literally ate dirt. So Eric Swalwell is running for president. You might remember that he is a congressman from California who made headlines. I think it was last year when he got into an argument with a gun rights activist on Twitter and claimed he claimed that he's going to force assault weapon owners to turn in their weapons. And the guy said, well, we're going to have a civil war then. And Swalwell was right. Well, yeah, that would be a very short civil war because we would have the nukes. Because he's implying that the federal government would nuke its own citizens in order to enforce gun control. That's how ridiculous it is. So he says, and this is his idea, just take the 15 million that are out there and buy them back. So Eric Swalwell is saying that we as the United States, even though many Americans don't believe in gun control, a lot of us, including myself, think that there should be even less gun control. He thinks that we should start to, this program to use everyone's taxpayer money to buy the weapons back. Because obviously, he didn't learn. It's the same idea when you see people saying, well, we as a country, we need to go into Iraq in order to get their weapons of mass destruction. So they send out, they send our army in order to fulfill their goals. That's really the issue that you see here. That would be a Republican example. And I think this gun control idea is the same. It's the same thing. These are people who would use force of arms and the state in order to impose their will on the population. And this is from the San Francisco Chronicle. It says Bay Area Congressman Eric Swalwell on Monday became the latest person to join the incredibly crowded 2020 Democratic presidential race. His primary policy message of the campaign will be gun control, and he's promising a mandatory buyback of military-style semi-automatic assault weapons. I will be the first candidate to say that reducing gun violence is to be a top three issue, Swalwell told Esquire. Last year I wrote a bill calling for a buyback and ban on assault weapons, not just to ban future manufacturing, but to just take the 15 million that are out there and buy them back. So let's put this into perspective. Not only is he saying that he's going to, so he put the cart before the horse, but these are two very important statements, but I'll put them in the order that I think is most important. He's going to force you to sell your weapons to the government, okay, as if the government needs any more weapons, but they're saying that the government that is basically, constantly selling weapons to terrorist organizations overseas in the name of, regime change and promoting democracy, okay, and they do it, and I don't care about saying it because I also criticize the other countries that do it. But the government that does that, they think that you don't have the responsibility and maturity to own an assault weapon, whatever the hell that means. They're also saying, this is another important thing, they're going to ban the manufacture of assault weapons. So who's going to develop weapon systems for the government? Are we going to start having, our military buy assault weapons from overseas? Or are they only going to be allowed to produce weapons for sale to the government? This is literally fascism. It is fascism here. Eric Swalwell is the classic fascist. I mean, he even has, he's complete with the fascist haircut. Look at him. Eric Swalwell is basically, here's a tweet, in fact. It says, so basically Representative Swalwell wants a war because that's what you would get. You're out of your fucking mind if you think I'll give up my rights and give the government all the power. And it would be a short war, my friend, says Eric Swalwell. The government has nukes, too many of them, but they're legit. I'm sure if we talked, we could find common ground to protect our families and communities. No, there's no common ground with this animal, Eric Swalwell, this disgusting pig. who thinks, well, I'm just going to take away your rights. You don't have a choice whether you sell me your gun or not. I'm just going to take it, or you can take the money for it. That's basically what they used to do in countries like Argentina that literally came under military dictatorship. And here's his announcement, appropriately enough, on a so-called comedy show.
You've been very critical of Donald Trump, as you have been tonight, but in the past you've called him a wrecking ball, you called him a Russian agent. You're a congressman. What can you do to try to fix what you see as wrong with this country?
I've already done a lot, but I can do more. I've been in Congress.
You haven't done shit, okay? You vote in Congress. That's about it. Congress hasn't done anything important. By the way, the likes are and dislikes in this video, apparently at one point it was 25 to 1,600. Let me see if I have the right video here, because here we go.
Greetings from Sac City, Iowa. This is where I was born. My dad was a police officer. My mom, she made dollhouses in the garage that she sold and baked wedding cakes.
Somehow we raise them all the same, and one of them turns out to be a Democrat.
They just wanted one thing from me. It's where I learned about the promise of America.
To be the first in the family to go to college.
I'm on the road in Iowa right now. My wife and our 2 kids that are 2 are at home. I miss them like crazy. Too much time on FaceTime with them, not enough time looking them, in the eyes.
He thrives as an underdog. When given an obstacle that no one thinks that he can overcome, he does.
Heard that there was a gun shop in town that would be open to just talking to me about just some of the legislation we're considering.
You tell him he can't do something, he's going to do it.
Today, we are just governing crisis to crisis. I'm from the first generation that might do worse than our parents. We can't do nothing. We have to, in this country, go big on the issues we take on. Most Americans believe we need to have coverage for all when it comes to health care. Be bold in the solutions we offer. Most Americans believe that to be free of gun violence. I went to the funeral for 4 police officers who were killed by an assault weapon. We should take the most dangerous weapons out of the hands of the most dangerous people and do good in the way that we govern. And most Americans agree that to address climate chaos, to make sure your house doesn't end up underwater or on fire, we should do something about it, but make sure that we're not pitting workers against their job. The economy is not the unemployment rate. Donald Trump was bold, but a lot of what he was bold about was just bullshit. And the economy is not the stock market. It's you. You look your family in the eyes and ask, how is our future any better off than before this guy?
Yeah, so all I'm seeing here is a lot of fluff, and actually, so when you make a pitch, you might as well bring in some real ideas with a few details. Today, I listened to Ben Shapiro talking to Andrew Yang, and it was a great discussion. And Andrew Yang actually came out and talked about his freedom dividend, which I don't agree with, and actually made his sale based on real detailed ideas and talking about, the flaws of believing, there's specialized fields where automation can't take over. And he claims that eventually automation will probably swallow up even things like radiology and other professions that, previously were thought to be completely unautomatable, if you can call it that. This guy, Eric Swalwell, is just saying what he's against. He's talking about, the economy is not the unemployment rate. The economy is not the stock market. The economy is busting through the roof right now. You have more people getting hired than ever. You have, I personally, I'm actually looking through the employment field. I don't have a permanent position right now, but there is a lot of work out there. In many cases, they can't find the people to fill certain positions, and a lot of times the people who would be eligible are already too old to work in those fields because and they're not looking for people of that age. So really the problem that Eric Swalwell should be talking about is how come America's education system is turning out people who are complete idiots who can't go out there and fulfill the job needs and requirements that are out there. He's not. He's putting out the same garbage that most of these other Democrats are. He's basically like Cory Booker.
I came around. I've got just under $100,000 in student loan debt today. Are you doing better, saving more?
So he ran up $100,000. Let me hear that. Okay.
How is our future any better off than before this guy came around? I've got just under $100,000 in student loan debt today.
Boom! I paid off my student loans within 3 years. You want to know? This is the crisis that is created, A, by institutions that embraced it, and B, by the people who accepted the money. I made a decision when I was in college to, first of all, I went to an affordable college, which is half the battle. If you go to an affordable college, you might not end up in debt. The second issue is that you don't accept as many loans as you can get. You try to budget and save as much and start to pay them off as fast as possible, and then you won't fall behind. But instead, people are coming out and saying, oh, even this guy, a congressman out in Washington, D.C., who makes plenty of money what do they make? I think $175,000 a year. He's complaining about having $100,000 in student debt. What were you doing until now?
Are you doing better, saving more, and dreaming bigger? We can do all of that.
Go big, be bold, do good.
All right, I'm with Ruchir from Doherty Valley High School. He's the winner of the Congressional App Challenge. Ruchir, tell us a little bit about what it is.
Hey guys, I'm Ruchir. I have an app called Rescue.
So it doesn't really matter who these people are. It's all about Eric Swalwell. Fact of the matter is that Chicago, LA, and New York prosecuted the fewest federal gun crimes back in 2013 under President Obama. So these would have been prosecuted by the Justice Department. And where were the most prosecutions? Places like Alaska, Kansas. You see here the dark red states are the ones with the highest ones. Montana, the Eastern District of Washington. Can you believe that? West Virginia. You have so disproportionately. There's two ways to read this. A, in the parts of the country where there is the most gun crime, which would be places like Chicago, places like St. Louis. St. Louis is actually, it looks not bad, but New York City, Los Angeles, people are not getting prosecuted. Meanwhile, in the Hill Country, where there's not as much gun crime, people get completely railroaded. So, is there some sort of discrimination against hillbillies in this country? Okay, are we supposed to start this civil rights movement to, redeem the innocence of our hilljacks? The people who live up, by the the whiskey till over in Charleston or something. Of course, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I live in a city, so apologies for those of you that are hill people. But I'm here for you, okay? I think that it's disproportionate that people in rural areas get prosecuted on federal gun crime charges. Meanwhile, the majority of the murders happen in urban areas. Okay, isn't that funny? Don't you think that's a little humorous that the government seems to think that the districts where more people get killed by illegal firearms, they're not going to prosecute people because there's too many people in the system? But you go to areas of the country like friggin' Utah, where there's only desert and ski lodges, and they're prosecuting people left and right. So that's the America that Eric Swalwell wants. And here he is talking again with Colbert.
Congress for 6 years. I've defended our country from the Intelligence Committee while democracy's been on the ropes.
I defended our country from the Intelligence Committee. The Intelligence Committee last year closed its investigation without finding any evidence of collusion. Now they're reopening the investigation. They're not looking at collusion, but they're looking at compromise, okay? Another fake crime that doesn't exist.
I took a group of young members of Congress, started a group called Future Forum. We've gone all over the country to listen to and stand up for the next generation of Americans. And I see a country in quicksand, unable to solve problems and threats from abroad, unable to make life better for people here at home. Nothing gets done. I talk to teachers and truckers and nurses, and they feel like they're just running in place, and it's not adding up to anything. I talk to people who are just like me, who are the first in their family to go to college. They've got a lot of student debt, can't buy a home, can't start a business. I talk to kids who say,
you can't buy a home, not only because of the student debt, but because you are the representative for California, a state with so much taxes that why would anybody be able to buy a home there? You know, the property prices are through the roof. The property taxes are through the roof. Everything costs more in California because of people like you, Eric Swalwell.
Sit in their classroom afraid that they'll be the next victim of gun violence. And they see Washington doing nothing about it after the moments of silence. And they see lawmakers who love their guns more than they love our kids. And none of that is going to change until we get a leader who is willing to go big on the issues we take on, be bold in the solutions we offer, and do good in the way that we do.
I think he might be reading the cue cards off of Colbert's glasses or something.
Govern. I'm ready to solve these problems. I'm running for president of the United States.
That's official.
Thank you. It's official.
Now it's official.
Boy, did it feel good to say that.
Now it's official.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Stephen Colbert doesn't challenge that. He doesn't go after Eric Swalwell for wasting the public's time for 2 years, an investigation that yielded nothing, that didn't show any hint of collusion with Russia. Because Stephen Colbert, and by the way, this is shared not on the Colbert Show YouTube account, but on CBS News. That's where they're sharing it. This is how ridiculous our country is, where we're considering Eric Swalwell, a guy who would start a nuclear war as a joke over gun control, and now says he'll force people to sell their guns back to the government. He's given a spot on a comedy show to pitch his fake presidential campaign, and I will be laughing very hard when he has to drop out after no one votes for him. Have a great day, and that's about it. So please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to my other channel, Razor Ray Special Cuts, as well as my channel on BitChute, at Chef Leopard, on Minds, at Chef Leopard, and on Gab, at Starscream85. And have a splendid Tuesday.